All right, guys, we're going to do a quick one because it's cold as hell out here. It's the middle of the night. Sorry about the crazy lighting. We got to do what we got to do. So I got inspired, so I had to talk this up. Slow day at the coffee shop. So we're bringing up something completely different. So I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a woman who was partially paralyzed. She's suing the band, the club, and the promoters of a place called Mohawk Place. Essentially what happened is Buffalo, New York, this 24-year-old woman was at a rock show, this Australian rock band, Trophy Eyes. The dude tried to crowd surf and essentially fell on her and broke her neck. Now she's suing the club, she's suing the promoter, she's suing the band. All right, guys, we're going to try to do a quick one tonight. I know the lighting in here is crazy. Apologies, it's the middle of the night. It's so fucking cold out here. It's insane, but I got inspired. So I don't know if you remember back in April, doesn't matter, fuck that. She did get $88,000 from crowdfunding. 5,000 of that came from the band, 500 of that came from the venue, and people all across the internet are talking about it. It's a little bit of old news, but it is what it is. And basically, there's a lot of mixed reviews. Some people are saying, like, oh, if you're in a show, you get what you get. If you're in the pit, you get hit. Like, it's your own fault. You know what you're getting into when you go. Other people are saying, like, oh, this isn't what it should be, and we should be cool, and this shouldn't be happening. And I guess Trophy Eyes got an especially big lens put on them because someone in their Instagram essentially said at a different show, unrelated venue, that they were definitely pushing people to do crowd surfing. They were pushing people to do mosh pits. This girl felt unsafe. I think it was a girl. I'm sorry. This girl felt unsafe in the crowd, and she was like, oh, all this moshing and stuff, there's nowhere to stand. Like, the pit's getting crazy. You're encouraging this. I can't enjoy the show. And there were some people that were straight up saying, like, okay, that's ridiculous. You're at the place. There's always room that isn't in the mosh pit. And she's saying, like, that space should be held for us. And, like, I had a panic attack. And other people are going, like, buck up, buttercup. Like, it is what it is. So, yeah, I was just thinking about this, and I just wanted to bring it up, and mostly because the Mohawk Place is closing. And I'm sure the reason it's closing isn't specifically because of this lawsuit, but I'm sure it's a contributing factor. If you're a business and you're being sued for an undisclosed amount of money that sounds like it could be a lot for negligence, you're gonna probably rethink your business model, especially in this economy. Completely understand. So, but what makes this, I have a personal story related to this place specifically because I've been to the Mohawk Place. I used to go to shows all the time, not just there, but everywhere. I remember the culture of shows. So the weird part about this is the girl's name that was injured, the 24-year-old, was named Bird, right? She gets her traumatic brain injury, shit happens. That same venue had another instance with a band called Terror and Trapped Under Ice. And this was like 13 years prior to this or whatever. I'm not sure the exact date. Another dude gets injured, a similar situation. A dude was crowd surfing. Someone hit him in the back of the head, knocked him into the floor. It was an accident. He ends up getting a traumatic brain injury, a broken neck, same thing, basically. Same club, same name. His name is Mike Bird. Her first name is Bird. Bird. That's weird. I don't know. It just made me think of it, and that's the only reason I'm thinking of it. So this brings me back to the music scene, the culture, what have you. So everybody's got an opinion, so I'm going to throw my opinion in the mix. I remember growing up and going to shows. I remember going to everything from your little, your VFWs, your youth center shows, your hardcore shows, your house parties, your Warped Tours, your festivals, your Ozfest, your, Mayhem, all these fests, all this shit. So I've been to every kind of club, every kind of venue, from the best to the worst. They're all different, but I remember thinking about this one especially because 2017, I remember there was a girl who got kicked in the face, broke her jaw at a show in Utah of a band called Code Orange, which was like a punk band. Dude was wearing steel-toe boots, kicked her in the face, broke her jaw, doing a hardcore windmill kick. I guess. And yet again, people did the same thing back then. And this shit's been going on forever, so it is what it is. But I remember people back then saying the same thing where they were like, oh, you get out of the pit if you don't want to get hit. Like, it's your fucking fault. And then I remember when crowd killing came around. And crowd killing is essentially mosh pit on steroids. It came from the punk hardcore scene, sort of. There's a history to it, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go into that specifically because this isn't about that. And it's basically where you just grab everybody, you just fight in a pit. You're pulling people in from the crowd that don't belong there. There's also the metal scene, had the wall of death, which is exactly what it sounds like. You part the Red Sea. You got a guy on this side. You got a guy on this side, very Viking of you. And you run right at each other and just boom, boom, boom. And there used to be this common thing about this situation was that if you were going to get in a pit, you were going to get in the mosh pit, there was a certain level of respect you had for the crowd. The whole punk scene was built around rules, ironically. And one of the things was you had pit etiquette. You had, if somebody fell, you pick them up. If you fall, they pick you up. You run in a circle. Everybody picks everybody up. Now, that being said, it's difficult to do that shit. People fall. You don't always catch everybody. People get hit in the back of the head, especially crowd surfing is always dangerous, because the fact of the matter is, one, you have to have a crowd dense enough to crowd surf. One of the big mistakes I've seen is a lot of people do not understand, one, they're too fucking big. If you're a big dude like me, you do not crowd surf. I'm sorry. It's just not in your options. You don't get to do it. You're the guy throwing them up. You're not the one fucking crowd surfing. I'm sorry. You have to have the densest fucking crowd to crowd surf appropriately. I remember Woodstock 99, Fred Durst riding the piece of plywood. You can't do that shit unless you're fucking tight. You have to be tight. You can't do it with like a loose-ass crowd, especially with a 100-pound girl in the front row, like, who was apparently a super fan. Where's she at? And then you just full-on elbow steamroller, like, not cool. That was your bad. I'm just saying straight up. One, your band is probably negligible. Two, the club is somewhat negligible. And here's why I'm going to say one way or the other whether the club is negligible. And also, I can completely understand why you throw the promoter in there because money's money. You got to get where you got to get. $88,000 for an injury like that isn't shit. You got the rest of your life to live with this. It's going to be potentially something that changes every aspect of your body and being. That's not okay. And this is where my opinion comes in. Okay. All the people on the one side that say music's music and the pit's the pit and you got to stay out of it if you can't handle it. No music is good enough for you to be paralyzed to it. I don't give a shit. You could have been at Rage Against the Machine, primetime front row, when it mattered. You could have been, if you were a Tool fan, when Tool was big, when Lateralis came out. You could be all of those bands, Primus, whatever, the best bands in the world. I don't care who you love. None of it is worth getting paralyzed. None of it is worth kicking a girl in the face and breaking her jaw. I don't give a fuck. It's music. You shouldn't be doing that. I can understand wanting to get rowdy. I can understand wanting to run in a pit. I did it all the time when I could run. And I can understand it, dude. There's something about it. There's an energy. There's a chaos. The rubbing elbows, smacking heads, maybe getting a bloody nose, something like that. But legitimately going out to hurt somebody in the pit is ridiculous. Everybody needs to stop doing that. I remember seeing in Warped Tour, an incident that comes to mind specifically, not to get on a tangent, was this incident where I was at a tour. I think it was a Warped Tour. I don't remember. It was one of those like many band festival type places like Warped Tour. I think it was at like a Darien Lake or something. Who the fuck knows? And there was this dude in the pit, and I'm telling you, there were some of the hardest core people of all ages, all the time in this pit. There were 15-year-old girls knocking motherfuckers out. It was crazy. But that being said, there was a certain level of etiquette. There was a certain level of understanding. You knew exactly what you're getting into. And I remember seeing this one big dude in the middle who was just fucking people's days up, just punching people, knocking people over, windmill kicking, all this dumb shit. And I was like, dude, get this fuck out of here. And everybody kind of collectively had the same thought I had. And was like, dude, get this dude. And you're trying to signal the security because there's only so much you can do. And you're not a snitch. And they're up on the risers and they can't get to you. And the medics are everywhere, but they can't get to you. They're dealing with other shit. They're grabbing people because crowd surfing also has this problem where when you hit the rim of the crowd, somebody has to catch you. And that means a security guard is going to have to grab you, put you on the ground, and get you the fuck out of there. And so everybody's tied up. And this dude looks at me. I see him in the pit. The pit clears. He's staring right at me. Dead eyes, comes at me, and I'm like, pointing up at the security like, hey, this fucking dude is about to rush me. Like, you need to get down here. They can't do anything. They can't get to me. The crowd's too dense. I can't do anything about it. So I'm like, all right, fuck this guy. He does the bull horns, right? Bull horns at me. And I'm like, no, dude, don't fucking do what you're about to do. He runs full speed ahead at me, head down, bull horns at me. I'm like, okay, forget it, dude. I just put my fist out and I essentially let him drive himself. I mean, I'm running at him. I got my fist out. He practically breaks my arm off my body by running himself into my fist. He hit so fucking hard, I thought my arm fell off. I was sure my shoulder was broken. It hurt so bad. He falls. He goes on the ground. It was wet as fuck out. He's in the ground. We're trying to pull him up. The medics are trying to get to him. It was fucked up. But that is a whole different side. But the fact of the matter is, shit happens. People do get hit. There should be a certain level of concert justice. If there's a fuckhead in the crowd, he should be taken out of it all possible in a respectable, understandable way, like with a security personnel or somebody at the club or whatever. But if you can't do that, dude, and you got to knock a motherfucker out, be respectful of the crowd. It is what it is. Now we'll get back to the Mohawk place. Now, what makes this club unique, and people don't know this because they've never been there, I don't think, is first of all, the backstage is the parking lot. The backstage is a loading dock. It goes into the street. That is it. There is no loading dock. It is in the street. You are outside. So you come in, you're on the stage is level, and it is not that high. It is maybe 3 feet from you, if that. I don't even remember exactly, but it's like 3-4 feet. No, it's probably like 3 feet. If that, right? So you are not that far away from the band. You know what I'm saying? It's like a railroad car, the way it's set up. The bar's to the left. You walk in the front door. You walk down this tunnel, basically, of a bar, and then you're in the pit. That's where it is. So the idea that you could run a mosh pit successfully or crowd surf in this venue is ridiculous because the place is tight. I mean, it is tight. I remember going there. I went to see Black Lips at one point. The place was so tight. Any crowd surge would just send you fucking off your feet, right? I remember full on being shoved one way, shoving back, where the whole crowd was, and that crowd was tight. You could successfully crowd surf this if you could, but here's the other problem with the Mohawk place. The Mohawk place, not only it's not allowed to crowd surf because of what happened at the Terror Show, which is still online somewhere, by the way. You really can't tell what the fuck is going on, but it gives you a strong sense of the vibe in the place, right? Very dark, very dingy, can't see shit. Band's up there rocking it, and you're like right fucking there. Crowd's right up on your ass. Everybody elbow to elbow, just throwing fucking in this tight little space. And then the ceiling, you can hit the ceiling. It is low enough to where if you throw a guy up, he can grab the rafters. There was a pipe going through the center of the building. I have no idea what it went to. Sprinkler system or something. Just a big black iron metal pipe in the ceiling. And you could hang off it if you were like you could jump up and grab it if somebody threw you up. And I remember being in the crowd at the Black Lips. They're passing Hennessy. They're getting crazy. The people are throwing shit at the band. Liquids are going everywhere. The dude had a chrome grill. They were making out on the stage. I was like, oh, that's okay. What's going on here? There were people getting their dicks sucked in the fucking audience. And you could have gotten trampled like full on Astro World style if you were not fucking careful. The pit was ugly as fuck. You should not have been doing a pit in there if you could help it. You definitely shouldn't be taking any of that crowd killing mentality into that place. And there was a lot of that shit because the hardcore bands came there, punk bands came there, a lot of like shit like that came there. So there was a lot of fucking that kind of vibe going on, and it was crazy. I could easily see how somebody could get hurt as fuck. And if you try to stage dive off that, you barely can jump high enough to get on the top of the hands, let alone cross the crowd. So let's just knock that off. That needs to stop completely. If you can't have etiquette at shows, and we're going to have shows where everybody's acting a fool with their phones up, fighting everybody, getting crazy, there's no crowd etiquette, there's no understanding of the old school, then maybe some of these venues do have to be a casualty of war, in the sense that until we can get a culture of people that understand how to use the venues and play the venues and keep the crowd, there's going to be casualties, and it sucks. And I love live music. I used to love shows, but I also am a grown-ass man who doesn't need to get kicked in the face. Nobody should be paralyzed from a band. Nobody should be dead in the crowd. There shouldn't be Astroworld situations. There shouldn't be this kind of thing. Recently, there was also another band I can't think of the name of, pop punk band, who jump kicked a girl off stage. Like, that's cool. I mean, she shouldn't have been up there selfieing, and they just full on kicked her. Like, that. Why are we going to shows for that? You know what I mean? It's just not. I get it, but I don't get it. So be cool to everybody. Be chill. Shout out to the few of you that commented, even the rude ones. Love you.